They told me there was a horrible incident. My son and his girlfriend, Anya, basically were burned alive in their car.
She was my daughter. He said Anya's name. I said, yes, it's my daughter. My wife came downstairs and she was screaming and crying. She said, no, 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 no.
We brought you this story yesterday. An update now. Today on the heartbreaking story about an illegal immigrant convicted in a DUI crash that killed 2 teenagers 3 years ago. Now set for an early release from prison in California. Maybe. The Trump administration heard about it. It's now pursuing felony immigration charges against him. My next guest says he faces up to 20 years in federal prison if convicted. Bill Essayli is the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California. And Bill, good morning to you. Thank you for your time. Governor Newsom apparently is waving in the feds on this as well. Let me read you part of his statement and you can react to it. He says, after being deported in 2013, this individual unlawfully re-entered the U.S. and committed heinous crimes. A GOP DA then gave him a plea deal instead of pursuing second-degree murder. CDCR, which is the California Department of Correction and Rehabilitation, will again coordinate with ICE as they have with 10,000 plus inmates to transfer him before release. What is your take on this now as it stands at the moment, Bill? Go ahead.
I think it's completely shameful for the governor to try to deflect on this. This individual, who is a criminal illegal alien who killed 2 innocent teenagers, was sentenced to a 10-year state prison term. And sentence was delivered by the judge in Orange County. He's only 3 years into his sentence, and the prison is releasing him. The prison is operated by the governor. Governor Newsom is solely responsible for operating the prison and allowing his release, but this is the name of the game in California. They've been releasing prisoners for a decade. We have half as many prisoners in California as we did a decade ago, and this is the policy up in Sacramento. So it's just unconscionable for him to deflect like this.
Yeah, Tom Homan was with us yesterday. We asked him about it on our program here. Watch.
And I guarantee you, if they don't honor a detainer, we have ICE agents outside that facility to take custody of this individual and deport him. He's been deported several times, which means he's a felon. We're trying to remove these public safety threats and national security threats as quick as possible. They're putting every roadblock imaginable in front of us to prevent us from doing that.
Bill, the way I said, this is one of these worst case situations with illegals. Multiple illegal entrants that resulted in the death of an American citizen.
This is what happens when you have an open border policy like we did in the prior administration. But those days are over. Under this administration, our borders are closed, and I've made it a top priority in my office, and I know throughout the United States, to enforce our immigration laws. So this defendant, he's not going to get free. He's not going to be deported. He's coming to my jurisdiction, and we're going to prosecute him. And once he's convicted, he's going to spend many years in federal prison, and then he'll be deported again.
You heard the criticism that the governor had toward the judge. This Pew survey that came out a few weeks ago, just read it here. The percentage of those who say they're confident in the judges in the United States federal courts. Here's what we found. 44% not to or not at all. 39% said somewhat. What's that tell us about the rule of law in America and a measure of confidence?
Well, I think that probably has more to do with these judges granting injunctions nationwide every time the president tries to enact a mandate that the American people asked him to do. That's probably coming more from that than anything else. But also in California, they've appointed a lot of liberal judges who are just very light on sentencing, and the governor appoints most of those judges. So again, to the extent he's critical of anything that happens in the state of California, he's the governor and he's at the helm. So he needs to point that blame at himself.
Yeah, how much attention does this story get in your state?
It's a big story, and it's devastating. I feel so bad for that family. Can you imagine to lose 2 19-year-olds, their whole life ahead of them, and to learn on Easter that this murderer that murdered their kids is going to be let out after 3 years? That's a joke. It's harming them all over again. It's an injustice, and I hope that by us charging him and making sure that he serves an adequate time, at least in federal prison, it'll bring a sense of justice to this family.
Good luck, okay? Bill Essayli, appreciate your time today from California.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
As left-wing judges work nonstop to shut down the president's agenda, a brash anti-democratic display that feels much like a judicial coup, you're going to be shocked to see what passes for a judge these days in the United States. Now, we all know the law must be followed and respected, right? That's part of the whole process. So, of course, the toxic left found a way to corrupt the law itself with its very cancerous ideology. And two remarkable examples of this tonight. The first, Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan, arrested today by the FBI for helping a violent illegal immigrant avoid ICE by concealing his court appearance on the public docket and then guiding him out of a secret exit from court where he ran from immigration officials. They were waiting for him in one place. She sent him another way to try and get him away from ICE. This is a judge. The second, a New Mexico judge arrested for harboring a Tren de Aragua gang member, an extremely violent and dangerous man in his own home. These are judges doing this, the absolute pinnacle of the judicial system. They allegedly have the integrity required to pass judgment on citizens in a free society. These people can put you in prison. They don't belong anywhere near these positions. These are just two examples of a rotting, corrupted, and politicized judicial system in this country. But before we get into the juicy details of just how twisted this all is, though, here's a look at the reactions we've heard today to these two very logical arrests.
Dramatic escalation in the Trump administration's conflict with judges.
The FBI director saying on social media that they have taken the extraordinary step to arrest a judge.
This is not just an aggressive, but probably an over-aggressive move by the Bureau.
Hannah Dugan is not just a judge, she's an American citizen. So now we are starting to arrest American citizens.
The Trump administration's FBI, headed by Kash Patel, arrested a Wisconsin judge for simply standing up for the rights of immigrants. This is without any historical precedent and truly terrifying.
For the rights of immigrants. Good God. Absolute fury, of course. For a little more context, in New Mexico, Judge Joel Cano and his wife allowed a Tren de Aragua gang member to live in the spare room behind their house, along with a couple of his buddies as well, it sounds like. This is a young man so violent, he had pictures of two decapitated bodies on his cell phone. The judge, if you want to call him that, was clearly aware that Christian Ortega Lopez was a member of the most violent foreign gang that's operating inside the United States. There's a video of the judge on Ortega Lopez's social media posing in his living room. There it is. There's a still shot of it with a semi-automatic rifle. That's the judge hanging out with the Tren de Aragua gang member who presumably is filming him. Here's more pictures of the judge hanging out with other gang members at his house. This is a judge in a border state of New Mexico. It doesn't get any crazier than this. And then there's Judge Dugan in Wisconsin, helping another violent, illegal alien subvert immigration officers. Eduardo Flores Ruiz, seen here, is accused of punching his roommate more than 30 times and also attacking a woman. He's a very violent guy, an illegal who was deported and then entered again illegally, so he's been here twice against the law. Judge Dugan made it her mission to make sure this violent man can stay in the United States and continue to pummel our citizens. Here she is years ago talking about the rule of law.
The rule of law is how we address our social issues, how we address our disputes, but also how we grow as people. The rule of law is premised on equal justice, but also we have evolved into due process.
Tell us more about the rule of law and due process. Here's what DOJ says Dugan did to subvert the rule of law. She initially hid the Flores Ruiz court date from the public docket, as I said, but she wasn't smart enough to fool ICE. They came anyway. When they showed up, apparently Judge Dugan was furious that they were there. She yelled at ICE agents and then took an alleged illegal criminal and his attorney and guided them to an escape route through the jury door. Sadly for the judge, this also failed as well. ICE agents had the entire building covered. Flores Ruiz, we're told, ran but was caught. And more than anything, all of this, as you listen to these ridiculous stories of just a couple of judges, think about how many more are out there, by the way, this is a reminder of just how flawed and political our judges are. Right now, we have district judges shredding the presidential agenda. 4 federal injunctions yesterday alone, 3 handcuffing the administration on immigration. Democrats and the media scoff at the idea that these judges are acting in a partisan manner against Trump as they try to prevent him from doing what presidents have always done, deporting illegal immigrants. They idealize the oath that judges take, which it appears many never intended to follow. They are partisan actors. And this is where it's come to. Our founding fathers had fears of a judicial coup. Jefferson and Hamilton wrote intently on limiting the powers of judges. It's so obvious. You give these people a ton of power. What if they're partisan? What if they're not right? A lot of them aren't, as we can clearly see. And these fears are now being realized.
Heinous. That was a heinous crime that shocked the entire nation. Deflect. The spokesperson tried to deflect questions about the scandal. The name of the game. In politics, survival is the name of the game. Unconscionable. It's unconscionable to charge that much for basic medicine. Deport. The government plans to deport the undocumented immigrants. Detainer. He was held on an immigration detainer after his arrest. Defendant. The defendant pleaded not guilty to all charges. Jurisdiction. This court has no jurisdiction over the case. Prosecute. They decided not to prosecute due to lack of evidence. Light on sentencing. Critics say the judge was too light on sentencing repeat offenders. At the helm. She is now at the helm of the company. Judicial coup. Many district courts issuing injunctions against the president's executive orders are seen as a judicial coup. Without any historical precedent. This decision was made without any historical precedent. Pass 4. He looks like a doctor, but he's actually not. He can just pass for one. Pummel. The media continues to pummel the administration with criticism. Subvert. They tried to subvert the democratic process. Injunction. The court issued an injunction to stop the construction. Recently, controversies over judicial conduct have attracted attention, with some seeing it as a judicial coup. Some judges have been accused of harboring and concealing criminals, undermining the integrity of the law. In handling illegal immigration cases, certain judges fail to honor detainers, helping defendants evade prosecution. These actions subvert judicial procedures, scoff at legal norms, and obstruct law enforcement agencies. Such behavior is considered without any historical precedent and poses a rotting threat to the judicial system. If judges' actions are unchecked, it could lead to more severe problems, even triggering politicized judicial rulings. This is a significant challenge facing the U.S. judiciary, severely threatening judicial fairness. Recently, controversies over judicial conduct have attracted attention, with some seeing it as a judicial coup. Some judges have been accused of harboring and concealing criminals, undermining the integrity of the law. In handling illegal immigration cases, certain judges fail to honor detainers, helping defendants evade prosecution. These actions subvert judicial procedures, scoff at legal norms, and obstruct law enforcement agencies. Such behavior is considered without any historical precedent and poses a rotting threat to the judicial system. If judges' actions are unchecked, it could lead to more severe problems, even triggering politicized judicial rulings. This is a significant challenge facing the U.S. judiciary, severely threatening judicial fairness.
If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date with future videos. Thank you for watching.